Hi, everyone. Welcome back. This is our 13th call for the Self-Directed Education Group on Facebook. So thank you for joining us if you're watching this recording. And we've got some group members here to talk about whatever comes up related to parenting, peaceful parenting, conscious parenting, which really is a great foundation for unschooling, self-directed education, and child-led learning. So we're excited to be back, and yeah.
Yay! Angela here, happy to be back. My internet's a little weird, so let me know if I go in and out. But it sounds like the interest of this call today is about how the specifics of conscious parenting relate to self-directed education, how they kind of go hand in hand. So to start, I'm just wondering if anyone has any like direct question to sort of like set the energy for the answer, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
Does
I just
anyone
want to say, me, Cynthia, and I are over on the East Coast in Massachusetts, and then Ashley and Angela are both in California. So we've got kind of like both coasts covered. So yay. Um, yeah, yeah, Ashley, do you have any questions?
Um, I don't necessarily have any questions. I'm just very interested on how you can correlate uh, self-directed education with gentle parenting. I don't have a lot of experience or knowledge on that, and it's very personal, and it's going to be very relevant in the near future because my daughter is just turned 5. So it's like something that I needed to discover and make decisions on very soon.
Yeah. So what comes to mind first, I guess, oh, and I'm just finding something on the ground that my son must have dropped on my last lap around the neighborhood. Here you go. Um, but but um, okay, so conscious parenting, I think my definition of conscious parenting is that we recognize that a child is innately born with like a life path. It's not that they don't have power or control over shifting that life path. It's just that all the information that they really need to be who they are is already innate. And then life sort of helps bring that out. Like the child themselves is kind of like a sovereign being. And our job as a conscious parent is to help that child become more of who they are rather than shaping that child into who we think that they should be. Now, that doesn't mean there's like so many fine tunings here. That doesn't mean that we never help guide a child's behavior. We never give feedback when, a child may act in ways that are potentially hurtful or whatever. It just means that the core of who they are, how they define themselves, what they're interested in, what beliefs they want to hold, what they're experiencing is not argued with or tried to be shaped into how we see things for our own comfort, So I think that self-directed education is like just that put into school, kind of. It's like, hey, now we're seeing that we actually don't need to add a bunch of compulsory curriculum or an agenda onto this child. We can trust that the child is whole and this moment is whole, and that as long as we're attuned to the moment, we're attuned to the child, then the curriculum sort of naturally appears. We don't need to shape them and have them divorce from their instincts or their bodily needs, which traditional schooling totally does. It's like kids have this instinct to play. You have to like raise your hand to go to the bathroom, and sometimes you can't, or to get a drink of water. It's like everything seems to be stemming from this belief that children can't trust themselves and they need to divorce from that inner authority to accept an external authority. So we can kind of see how, it's pretty clear to me that how those philosophies would be very much in alignment.
Yeah, I love that, Angela. And from Angela is a parenting coach, so she's going to have a much detailed perspective. And I'm just I'm a unschooling mom, um, and but with a very deep spiritual background. For me, when I decided that I wanted to be a conscious parent, what that meant for me was that I wasn't going to parent unconsciously, which meant just do exactly what my parents did, just unconsciously do what society says, what my parents did. That I was going to be conscious and awake and aware of how I was parenting. And one of the big concepts was to see my child as an equal soul. So it took away the hierarchy that the parent is smarter, better, in control, and the child is less than and needs to obey. So that whole power dynamic shifted to us being equal souls. And of course, I am the parent. So, like Angela said, if she's going to fall, or if something's happening, or if I need to establish boundaries, or then I do understand that I am the parent, and I happen to have, a bunch of life experience that can be helpful. But on from a big picture perspective, she's an equal soul. So she's whole as is. Um, and so going from unconscious to conscious, from an unconscious point of view, parenting is a lot about control. I need to control this kid and turn them into a great person. Where from a conscious perspective, I look at it as connect. I need to connect with my child. I need to be present with my child. I want to be present. I want. So that's when Angela says, like, attune, to them. So they're already whole. They're already, wonderful, thriving souls. And it's just about helping them on their path, and leading them and guiding them, giving them the tools. Um, so that type of foundation, just the difference of shifting from raising them in fear. If I don't do this, you could turn out bad or wrong, to wait a minute, you're already whole. You're already a perfect thrive, you're already a perfect soul. So it turns into more of like a companionship, rather than something that you need to control or mold them into. And then, like Angela said, the next kind of logical step, it is unschooling, and it is self-directed education. So if they already have an idea of their essence, their personality, their gifts, their talents, it's about, nurturing them, nurturing their desires, their interests, their passions in the moment, rather than, we need to do this curriculum, this grading system. You need to learn to sit and obey and listen. And so it turns it into a much more respectable, open, a lot of open space for them to kind of practice, and be in a safe, you know, it, we, I unschool, we're not in a school. So I just, as the parent, and we do a lot of play dates, and we're at parks and in the forest, and they're not running amok. Unschooling can somewhat seem like run amok. Although if you wanted to allow your child to run amok, they could, because that there's no set definition. But most of us are okay, let's stick together on the path, or let's we're giving them some basic boundaries, basic guidelines, so they can feel safe as they kind of explore and develop.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, so conscious parenting, or hold on one second, someone's calling me through, sorry. There we go. Conscious parent, can you still see me and hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. So it doesn't mean no boundaries, and certainly self-directed education, although children, quote unquote, like in quotes, have the freedom to do whatever they want, there are so many rules. Like, they don't really have the freedom to do whatever they want with no consequences. There are plenty of rules. It's just that the basis of those rules switches. So here's something big that's been coming up for me lately, not only through parenting, but through just like relationships in my life, co-parents, all sorts of stuff, is that rules or boundaries or agreements or whatever term you want to use for them, if we're searching for our peace, if we're searching for our wellness, our well-being in boundaries, we're bound to be disappointed because we ultimately don't have control of our child, of anyone in our life. And if our boundaries are inevitably stepped or crossed across, and then that was our like symbol for our happiness, or we were really externalizing our happiness onto that thing, well, pretty easily. So to say that we just don't use boundaries at all, like, oh, I'm just going to be so happy all the time, even though people are walking all over me like a doormat. No, it's just saying that boundaries are more playful. Boundaries are like, hey, let's play with energy. Let's see what works for the container of our life. And that's a flexible thing. And then when our boundaries are crossed, it's like our child leaves a mess somewhere where it was a rule that we actually don't leave unattended messes in the living room or something, because that's where all the family hangs out. Like a kid is going to do that eventually. We can remind ourselves when we have this big story come up that's like, oh my gosh, my child is so selfish. What were they thinking? Nobody respects me. Like all the stuff that makes us feel like really negative. That's our chance to heal. So you could look at it as if the child crossing the boundary is actually your gift. Because if it feels overly negative, then you know that it's offering you a chance to heal that unmet story. That's not to say that when someone leaves a big mess that you need to be super ecstatic about it and like false happiness, like, yes, there's a mess in the living room or anything like that. It's just saying that like falling into suffering is a totally different story. That's everything about you. Typically, when we bring ourselves back into alignment after moments like that, where we've realized, the truth that like, hey, I'm actually a whole sovereign being too. I'm an infinite soul. No one can really take from me. No one can really rob me of my essence, even if they leave toys in the living room. This is just a chance for me to see myself in more of my power. Then from a centered state of being, we're typically guided to do what is in alignment, which might be gently speaking to our child about the mess in the living room and seeing if they'll agree to clean it. Or even sometimes I've found that it's cleaning the mess myself because I'm just in such a good mood that I don't care. And that doesn't mean that my child's going to walk all over me the next moment. It just means that like this time mom cleaned up the living room because she felt like it. But either way, it doesn't really matter. Like it's not really like a right or wrong thing to do. Like the action steps aren't the point. It's the energy underneath it. So end of sentence, period.
Thank you. Yeah, that's and I think that kind of goes for me into kind of a little bit of the difference between traditional parenting and then when you get into peaceful or gentle. It is that it's not about hard, fast rules and dictatorship. It's more flexible, and it's about building a long-term relationship, and a lot of communication and talking things out, rather than the hard lines, hard rules, and strict punishments, and trying to control behavior. It's kind of like a partnership, a relationship that um, everyone has an opportunity to grow and learn and become a better version of themselves through the relationship.
Totally. Yeah, it's funny. I was just working on a little post or like a little piece of writing like right before this that was like that is like, which maybe you'll see posted in a day or so, but something like conscious parenting is not just about learning gentle tools for guiding our child's behavior, although those are awesome, those are very useful. It's also about seeing that even when those things are crossed, boundaries are crossed, that even all behavior can be our gift if we use it that way. We don't need our child to act in any particular manner for us to be happy. that's kind of like a fragile place to be, because children are wild and free.
Awesome. Yeah, I wanted to ask, so Ashley, you said you're kind of at that point where you're making the decision. I'm gonna guess, well, I'm wondering, is the decision going to be from public to something alternative? Is that where you're at now?
She's not in school at all and never has been, nor has she been in a school setting, and she's never been watched by anyone outside the family. So she's like, very accustomed to a close knit coddling of sorts, around between her caretakers and I. I want something that's more self-directed, and there's going to be a lot of blowback from my partner's mother in particular, and she really wants her to go to school in a traditional setting, and she thinks it's the only way that's acceptable, and it matters to a certain degree, but I'm gonna have to kind of fight for that a bit, but it is ultimately up to me, and I just feel like this is the better way to go. And there's a lot of things I see, a lot of problems I see with traditional settings. I don't know what options I have with minimal income. I'm on disability, so I don't have like a very functional amount to work with. And then I looked into homeschooling, and she's like 3 weeks past the cutoff point for her age bracket, so she'd have to wait until next year to get into that. I don't really know what my options are. I don't want it to be like, oh, I have no other choice, put her into school and in traditional schooling. That would really bother me. So I was like, this is like, the only, at my last resort, it is our option for my precious child. I don't want it to be the case.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Yeah. Ashley, you and I have talked a little bit about this already, but for you and for others who may be listening, it's like, I don't think that if you're really feeling it and you've really decided that you're not going to find an option. I think that there will be, and it's just going to depend on your area, because every area is so different. But I know in California that, worst comes to worst, and it's not even a worst case scenario, it's still awesome. You can file for your own affidavit for a private homeschool and do it that way. Yeah, and be totally legal. And I know in your situation that you do have the say, right? Like you have ultimately it's your decision to make. So what's really helpful in a situation like that is to recognize that when we do have adversity, who are we adversing with? Like, are they coming to us because they have genuine concern for the child and they want to have a discussion? They want to know more. They want to share their perspective, hear your perspective, and figure out, like, they want to hear you. You know what I mean? If that's the case, I find it might be a little bit challenging, maybe a little bit triggery for us to engage, but it can be worthwhile. It can offer us a lot of self-growth and maybe like heal that the distance between both of your understandings. Now, on the other side, if it's someone who is trying to just like criticize or just like prove that they're right, you know what I mean? That's something that I've learned that I don't really even engage with too much, but with grace, it's kind of like, oh, thank you for letting me know how you feel.
Okay.
Yeah, type of a thing, and just leave it at that. Especially if you have power. Like, this is totally an exercise to view any of your self-beliefs that come up that make you feel powerless or insecure, or even frustration can be an indicator that like somewhere within us we're feeling maybe not as worthy, or whatever the beliefs may be, because you ultimately have the ability to make the decision. So there's not much actual fear here. It's like, okay, like legally everything's good, I can make this choice. Everything else is like your side of an opportunity for you to heal, which is awesome. You can always be thankful for those people.
It would be easy. I bring it up because it's going to be hard. I'm going to have to defend it, what I'm doing with my daughter on a regular basis. It would be easier and it would be free just to put her into traditional schooling. But that doesn't sound that's not a pleasant option. That's not a satisfying option for me. That would be like almost like a failing, like kind of defeat, right? It'd be
Yeah.
defeating.
Yeah. So in that case, it's like, what really is easier? Is it easier to do what physically is easier, like in terms of like the action steps?
You're
Like,
right.
oh, it's easier
Yeah.
just to enroll and to not have to argue with my ex. Sorry, usually it's an ex, but in this situation,
Yeah.
it's a it's a
Mother-in-law.
mother-in-law. Yeah. Or is it actually easier to live a life that resonates with my heart? You know.
Mhm. Very true.
I'm thinking like this early on,
I'm gonna get this baby in the house.
it might be beneficial for you to be like just a little bit like laid back with it, because self-directed education is really about the child. And not that traditional is wrong, just that what's the best fit for this child.
Yeah.
Will this child thrive in that sort of environment? Will they thrive with more independence? And most of the time it is going to be a self-directed place where of course you could find a self-directed school. A lot of them have um, uh, um, financial aid and things like that. Where I am in Massachusetts, the private schools, they don't have a lot of wiggle room. They're pretty expensive, 10,
Mhm.
20,000 a year, even
Mhm.
starting in kindergarten. So a lot of us just homeschool. I think in California that can probably be really affordable. Have you looked into that?
There's homeschooling options through different groups that they give you funding to homeschool. They just give you assistance.
I
And the one that I
watched
was looking
something
at,
on that.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure you're doing your research.
I did, but that's the one I'm referring to is the one that said that she has to wait till next year because her birthday is like 3 weeks
Okay.
past the cutoff point.
Okay.
So yeah,
I
that's the
just
one
get
I
the
was.
Oh,
Was that?
I just get the feeling that having to wait a year is like so good for you. I don't know. That's the feeling I get
Yeah,
because you
it could
have
be.
time to process. You have time to really like figure out what speaks to you. Not that you have to struggle to figure out or stress to figure out. It's like that stuff sort of comes naturally, given time. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's probably where I'll go with it. I'm gonna have to put it really good. I want to put my perspective and my opinion in order and have like starting to be very explicit with what I'm doing and why I'm doing this with my daughter. Um, so when it gets, and this is what I need to do. So that if it gets questions, I have quite a defense for what I'm doing. It's going to be a bit, and my family and my family too, and his family are both just pretty traditional. And I'm doing something different with my kids. They're much different than what they did with me and with my partner. And just to be fueled with information is what I can go and things will be fine if I go that route.
Yeah.
I like to just use like a general, like, I'm evaluating all my options, and,
For
we're
now, yeah, that'd be
yeah, like
good. Yeah.
I'm researching, and you can
Hmm.
say like me, I'm really thorough about decisions,
Yeah,
and
I
you,
do.
and obviously these children have so much love, and we've got such a big support system, and by the way, thank you for being part of our support system. And you know the
That's
bottom
good.
line is, because if you just zoom out for a minute,
Hmm.
the bottom line is no matter what you choose, it's flexible. You're not stuck in something for the rest of your life. If you do, like we did Montessori for a couple years, and now we're doing unschooling, and my daughter says, oh, I do actually want to go to high school, but she's 8. So if you take more of a light-hearted, flexible approach, the bottom line is whatever school system the child is in, they're always going to need, family that loves them and cares about them, and is supportive in that way. So I like to just kind of say, you know what, I'm looking into it. I'll get back to you when I have more details. But for now,
Okay.
how can we support? Just like thank you for being there, and thank you for caring.
Mhm.
Thank you for the love and being here for us. And I would kind of focus on when you switch to gratitude, it takes a lot of the pressure off.
Yeah. And
So
Angela knows this about me. It's like a bit of a defense I have like a very shaky past with my kids and um a custody with them even. So a bit of defensive, and it's hard for me to get to a place where I can be gentle with people when they're like, making accusations or challenging my authority. I get rough with it. But that's good to keep in mind and to be explicit about how I do appreciate the thoughtfulness and the care that they have for my kids. I think some of it's um I just think they're just misinformed in a lot of ways, and they're socialized differently than how I want my children to be socialized. So they're just coming from a very, very different place. And for the sake of my children, they care. They're not. It's not to be problematic. So if I keep that in mind and not get into like an ego-centered type of defense mode, then we would all be much better off.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another gentle process. That's another like thing that doesn't have to be stressful or doesn't have to be hard on yourself, is like just noticing the defensiveness and like giving it a hug and being like, oh,
Yeah.
how cute. I love that. I love doing that with myself. It's just like when my inner child shows up, it's like, oh, how cute. Oh, here she is. Type of a
You
thing.
little maniac, you little menace. What are you
Yeah,
up
yeah.
to today?
aw.
Yeah.
But it's much easier to actually see yourself and to transform or like work with those things when we're gentle with them. So yeah.
Yeah. With myself and other people too. Like you know, it should be both. It should be both.
Yeah.
Another thing I do is sorry, it's something like I'm really deep in the research right now. I've got this. If I need any help, I'll let you know. Thank you so
Okay.
much. So
Okay.
like kind of being firm with the boundary, and then
Yeah.
like but being sure that you're like, I've got this. I'm in the research. I'm talking to some great people. And the bottom line is you all want the same thing. You all want these children to be
Yeah.
happy and healthy, successful, balanced. So at the end of the day, you all want you're all you all want the same thing. But if you do have to establish a boundary, I wouldn't go into any of the details of what you're
Okay.
evaluating, what you're going to choose. I mean, of course you can if you want to, but if you're still in that kind of sensitive, tender place, I don't know that they need to know. I mean, you can say, I'm excited about the research I'm doing. If I need help, I'll let you know. But I've got this, and I I like, how about those Red Sox? Like just something else. That's
That's
we.
great. That's
Yeah.
great. The information you get, I just need a way. I need the words to to express myself in a way that is gentle. I'm I'm very direct and almost and just it's so assertive that it's problematic at times. It's unappealing to people when I'm not concerning their feelings or their position. So that's good. I do need to be a little firm though and be like, this is what I'm doing, and she trusts me and she respects me enough because she knows how much effort I put into parenting, and there at least there's that, but she just thinks that she's more correct in regards to how parenting should be done. And um this is still it's still I don't know if unschooling is necessarily new, but um the way that it's catching on and the culture that is developing is quite different than what mainstream culture is. And I don't know a lot of people who are um unschooling right now. I don't know a lot of people who do that.
Mm.
um and it would help, like they would it would help if I can find, some more authorities, maybe some authoritative figures, for them to look into too when questioned. Like, well, can read why don't you read this? And or maybe have like pamphlets that I have for them specifically. You know, like, and if she wouldn't take it the wrong way, I don't know. But yeah, just to be informative would be great. I wish everyone was on the same page. It would be much better.
Yeah, I feel that feeling too sometimes. Like, I wish we all just, but then I wonder if that's really true because there's been so many, like, for example, in my own life, like, totally different topic, but recently I had someone who, like, just over the past year has just like totally avoided any boundary or agreement that we have created. It's a co-parent. And there's actually like legal agreements that we've created, and they will just like, seems like they will avoid it just because like they've been told that they have to abide by agreement. So just that's just their personality. So now they're just like, I'm not going to do any of that type of a thing. That seemed like, oh man, I wish that you would just get with the program. But actually, that experience with that person, like, helped me to balance my fine-tuning art of boundaries and how I play with boundaries, and how, to a degree that, I don't know, I was like kind of really thankful that they showed up in that way. So I get curious sometimes when I wonder, or when I think that I want people to be a certain way. I think life kind of
Right.
knows best. Yeah.
Well, it's like wearing you was like you do the statue or you do with marble, right? Like they call to helping cultivate. They're like bumping against you, but they're helping cultivate like a form. You know what I mean? Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Okay, yeah.
totally. Yeah. Yeah. It's
They're
really
like
amazing to see it.
ricocheting off of you, but like helping cultivate your own form by being evaluative or being thoughtful about it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think what started to when I started to kind of build confidence, I think at first I just um I didn't really go to bat on it. I didn't have yeah, I
Okay.
just was like, look, I'm the parent. I'm a single parent. But I had a lot of chefs in the kitchen for a little while, and it was really coming from a loving place, but I had to just okay, you're an aunt. I'm with her 24/7. You're here once a month. So this is, I just had to make it clear. Here's where I can use help, and here's where I've got this. But when I started becoming more confident is I started meeting people in my area, so the local homeschoolers, the local unschoolers,
Yeah.
and just hanging out with these people and seeing these kids, like these beautiful, awesome, healthy kids running around for hours and hours and collaborating on like stick structures and it that's what helped me feel more confident and just to see if my child even actually fit in, at first
Yeah.
we went to some play dates and she was kind of a little reluctant to make friends and she was kind of close and I wanted to be sure that it was a good that we fit in, me and her. So it took us to kind of make some friends and talk to some people and just to see. So maybe the year that you have is a gift. If you can like start finding some Facebook groups and people in your area and see if
Yeah.
you can find some play dates or park days and just start seeing who you gravitate to, who and you can usually bring the younger siblings. It's so natural. I found even from going from a private Montessori school, which is child led, so it's a similar philosophy, to then going to the homeschool world, it felt even more natural. There was, moms nursing and all age kids, and then a mom shows up with like six kids, and and then my daughter is saying like, "Can I help with the baby?" And it's just like this. It just started to click a lot for us. Um, when we just actually started doing it. So I think if you can, start to find the people. I mean, it's great to find people like us that are uh, talking about this. But to start connecting with like who would actually be your people, if you do end up staying in the same area, that's going to be key because that's like your if you go with the school, then great, then you've got the school, that community. But if you do end up homeschooling, then for me, at least for me, and I think it would also be for you and most parents, to really have that community.
Yeah, that would be ideal. And then having those on a regular basis so she has that interaction. I actually went to, they were dyeing, it was like an event where they were dyeing clothing with food items like
Mm.
avocado seeds and onion skins, and with a bunch of preschoolers. And I don't remember how I found it. But we went and it was close by. And then she had like a homeschooling pod for her preschoolers that she had there at the house. And my daughter played in the mud nearly the whole time. And
Yay.
she doesn't get that option very often. But they had like a mud kitchen, and they had like a play yard, and they had, all kinds of really stuff. And I didn't get an opportunity to ask her about that, but that would be something ideal. And they met up every day, so that was like their homeschooling routine. Um, but I don't know what it was through, or what organization, or what grouping, or what agency it was through.
Andrea, what have you found that worked? What helped you find your groups best?
Yeah.
So when we moved 5 years ago, and at that point she was in just a very nurturing preschool. It was really laid back, but I just needed some help. So we moved, and it just so happened that we had a mother's helper who was homeschooled, and I was like, "That's awesome!" Of course, the universe sent her to me, and I was like, "Oh, that I didn't know anyone that was homeschooled." From what I had known, it was no offense, of course, it was just like some weird religious thing. That's the way I was raised to think it was, some like cultish type weirdness.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then I've got this great mother's helper. Her mom was a doctor, a chiropractor. And so once we did preschool, and then we did Montessori. And then when I was thinking about homeschooling, I just asked her, I was like, do you know anyone that I could talk to? Because the mother's helper was way older. She was already, like, almost in high school, but my daughter was just entering elementary, like your daughter's age. So her mom gave me the phone number to, like, 1 or 2 people, and I literally called them, and I was like, "My daughter's 5, and I'm thinking about homeschooling," and they said they just started directing me places. They were like, "Join this Facebook group, join that Facebook group. You can
Mhm.
call this place, call that place," and I just started calling. The Facebook groups helped a lot too. I realized that there's like a bunch of Massachusetts homeschool pages. So I joined like so many pages, but then I started to realize like who was local and which groups I fit in with, because at least in Massachusetts, you say homeschool, it can be many different styles. There is a religious style. There's Charlotte Mason. There's a whole bunch. I already knew that I loved self-directed education and unschooling and child-led. That's what brought me to homeschool. So at least I had a little bit of a idea of what I was thinking. So if you're already in the self-directed thinking, unschooling, but when it comes, what I realized is that the people that we love hanging out with, a lot of them aren't even unschoolers. They're homeschoolers. Some do a curriculum, some do nature school. They're just fun. They're just good, fun people. And they're no, they're we just like to do the same things. Like we like to do park days. So it was through Facebook groups, phone calls, and then just going, like finding the play dates,
Mhm.
and just going. My daughter and I were kind of like, oh, hi, it's a little intimidating at first, but then everyone was so friendly. Every
Yeah.
homeschool parent I called, those first couple phone calls, they were on the phone with me for like an hour. Like they were so nice, which was part of the reason that once I started to get some experience, that I put myself out there as like I would help other people too. And that's kind of part of what Angela and I are doing now. I feel like it's just kind of reciprocating because everybody was so, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but most of the people were super nice, super helpful, and very welcoming. But like I said, soon I realized, like, there was one group that we met up with which we just didn't click with. and I left that Facebook group, and then we started going to like one, okay, this group seems fun, this group seems fun. And then within a couple visits, she started making friends. And even at like 5 or 6, she was like, oh, are we going to see Isabella? Is Isabella going to be there? And then it was just a wrap. I loved their, and we still have a lot of those same friends now.
Yeah, that would be ideal. She's never had a close friend even, and I don't think she doesn't want to go to school. I personally believe the child-led and self-directed education is probably the best way we can possibly do things for developing minds. But for her opinion is that she doesn't want to go to school. She doesn't want to be away from us. She doesn't want to be in a routine. And then she said she's worried about other kids being mean to her. She has these presumptions. I don't know necessarily where she got them from, but she has a strong opinion about it. She really doesn't want to go. And like I guess like I use the term coddling with her because she's been very nurtured and led to have her own opinions and led to her respected opinions. So it's been a lot of what she wants and what she feels being acceptable. So putting her in a position where it's not going to be up to her how her day goes and what she engages in and what her routine is would be like a very shocking thing to her. And I don't feel the need to do that. If we don't have to do that, I don't know. I mean, from the government or otherwise, then why would I do that to my child? I don't know. I don't see a good reason to do that.
Yeah, totally.
If
Yeah,
she made
and
friends, if she had it would change her whole little world, I think.
yeah, I think that stuff typically happens naturally. Like you use the word coddled, and I know you pretty well, so I know a lot of your history, and I don't think that what you're doing with your daughter is coddling. I think you're supporting, yeah, you're supporting what she needs. Like you're really listening to
Yeah.
her and you're respecting her as a
Yeah.
human being.
It's a lot of respect where it's like some people
Yeah.
I know and otherwise it's like a 5-year-old, no, her opinion is irrelevant. Well, no, I don't do that. That's not how I treat my child. I don't, yeah, it's coddling, well, nurturing.
Yeah,
Would be
totally.
okay.
Yeah,
Well, nurturing from now on.
because
Yeah.
it brought up a thought for me, like, because you said, she has this fear that other children will be mean to her or whatever. Like that's not a problem, but it is something to be aware of. And coddling would be like then never having children around her because, oh no, we don't want her to get triggered by this fear. That would be coddling. But then there's this like middle ground that we can have where it's like, hey, we listen to what we need. We listen to when we want to get social interaction. Maybe we think it's really inspiring to want to park date and meet other moms, you know what I mean? And so we're not like shying her away from social interaction. That's coddling.
Yeah.
But we're also respecting her. Like, I'm not going to force you to go. I'm not going to do the opposite and like kick you in the butt and go force you to like hang out with
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
middle ground.
Okay.
It looks like we're getting towards the end of this call. So there was like some thoughts that were coming to mind. I was wondering if it would be helpful for you just over this wonderful year that you get to really think things through and do research, if it would be helpful to sometimes make your in-laws aware that you are doing so much research. Maybe not engaging in like hey, see from my perspective, not from that energy, but like maybe sometimes sharing like, oh, what a cool article, oh my gosh, I just spent the whole day looking up this stuff, just so they know they've built up this long period of time where they know that you like are on it, you are really looking into it, you really care, and you're that sort of thing might be helpful for when you finally break the news to them that you're not doing traditional school.
That's a very meticulous plan. It's very which I don't necessarily do. I don't plan ahead. I don't know, I'm impulsive, as you know, but to do that ahead of time, she would appreciate it. I don't know how his mother is gonna react, but she knows that I'm doing it from a place of love and knowledge, hopefully that'll be enough to sell it. And then I don't have to, she's really the only person that would really put up a fight. My mother's, no one does alternative schooling that I know of, but no one really fights me like she does on that. And if I kept her informed, or like I think if I gave her information, she would read it, and then she could have her opinion about it, and then maybe we would have it like a subject matter to discuss specifically,
Yeah.
And that might be a functional way to go about it.
Yeah. Have you heard of Peter Gray?
No.
So Peter Gray, Grey, Peter Gray he does ongoing articles with like Psychology Today and stuff, and like research-based studies into unschooling and self-directed education. He's a really great resource for people. Yeah. For people who like are going to share this stuff, and people are, I want empirical evidence. Like he's a really great guy. There's plenty of others, but that's
what I want. Like, and then it's going to even solidify my these decisions are based upon my beliefs and values and my understanding of my schooling. I've taken a lot of social science courses, and so it's based upon my experience. But to have that data would only help the situation, and then in particular with other people. Yeah.
Yes, and I hope you can see in the chat, Cynthia just clarified, and I was going to recommend the same thing. Peter Gray, Gray.
Okay.
Any of his books, information, articles are just outstanding.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, let's see. Yes, we have 2 minutes left. Yay. I'm so appreciative that you came on and asked those questions. And I think that this will be helpful, for other parents at that kind of beginning stage. So thank you for being vulnerable and, chatting and being honest with us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you for letting me share and giving me feedback. And this was hugely productive. Thank you.
Yeah, and feel free, we're doing Tuesdays, so you're welcome. Any call, jump on. If you're feeling talkative, start chatting. If you just want to hang out in the background, we're just open and but happy to be sharing what we know, just to help people, because it's like, traditional, there's all this information and there's all this background, but then you're like, oh, alternative, and you're like, where do I go? What do I do? So we've got like, we can anchor you into what we know and all the great tools.
Excellent. You guys are doing great work.
Yay, thank you.
Thank you.
So do we have any announcements? Usually we do that at the end.
The usual announcements.
Okay.
So anyone wants to have like one-on-one sessions, I offer one-on-one sessions, and you can find me at my website, angelaroseyoung.com, or on Facebook at Angela Rose Young, and Instagram at New Paradigm Parenting.
Yay. And I've actually been working a lot on our blog. So my daughter and I have a blog where we share a video blog on YouTube. So
how cute.
Yeah, so we share our world schooling adventures, and I also share inspirational spiritual stuff. And so my name is Andrea for short. I call it I'm Aqua, she's Rose, and it's Life. So we're Aqua Rose Life, and we're on YouTube if anyone's interested. We have an Instagram as well. Yeah, so we're sharing videos on spirituality, unschooling, and just like what does it look like in real life. We goof off all the time and just record it. So
lovely.
Welcome to come take a look. Cynthia, what are you up to? You've got some announcements for us? You look great, by the way.
Oh gosh, thank you. I had to run in the store, which is why I left the meeting for a while. And then of course I go in the store and I'm like chatting with 3 different people. So it was a little more than 10 minutes. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for the call. My thing is, I have a blossoming organization which could use some more water and sun to help it blossom faster. It's called Initiatives for Community-Based Living. So far, it's just a Facebook page because the website is under construction. The root of it, or the stem of it, I should say, has to do with home education advocacy and deschooling and stuff, which I've been doing for 13 plus years. I've been a home ed parent since 2006. So it's for group or individual consults, or I'd rather call them discussions, focused discussions and ongoing support. And then there's various initiatives for my area where I am in Metro West Boston. I'm in the process of gathering teenagers for a team, which I guess it's hard to explain in a nutshell, but basically they're going to be very intertwined with the larger community in various ways. So yeah.
Oh, we're losing you, Cynthia. Sorry.
Yeah, the sound's going in and out.
I'll put the recording up, Cynthia, and congratulations on your Facebook page. Share it, and we'll be interested to follow along as your business grows, and however you're helping people. We're happy to put that out there as a resource for the group.
All right, thanks.
Yay! All right, that wraps up call number 13, and see you next week. Thank you, everyone. Fun as always.
Thank you. Yeah.
See you next Tuesday.
Yeah.